Hi again, everyone. Gary Digi Williams here on Boxing Along the Beltway on the Boxing Along the Beltway Podcast Network. And the Boxing Along the Beltway Podcast Network is heard on Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, and on TuneIn. And you can be heard all throughout the world on many of your favorite podcast networks. So you could be back for another week. And of course, we got very little news this week. We do have a little bit of news, not a whole lot though. But today we're going to pay tribute to another one. In fact, the only one of the four kings I have not talked about. And we're going to talk about his career and how his career was interesting because out of the four kings, he was the one that started his career the earliest, but he was the last man to win a world title among the four kings. We're going to talk more about that. We have another news story as well. And we're going to pay tribute to a man that I was fortunate to be able to know that unfortunately passed away very, very soon, too soon, very early. And we're going to talk about him as well. The Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always by Real-Time Pain Relief, from boxers to ballerinas. For shoulder pain, the muscle strain, everything in between. Boxing on the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief, the official pain relief of the 2020 Daytona 500. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has free weight. She has workout tips. She has also great jewelry and great. She has great training methods as well. Deborah, DEBRA Spears.com. Well, we do have a little bit of news for you. We have news concerning the Golden Gloves, and that news is quite simply there will be no Golden Gloves this year. The Golden Gloves are canceled for this year. That came from the national office. The Golden Gloves are scheduled to be August 9th through the 15th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But we know what's happening out there as far as the coronavirus is concerned. So they're having a lot of upswing because they were in the news this past week. And they had, even before then, they decided the National Golden Gloves was not going to take place this year. So there'll be no Golden Gloves. And of course, that also means there's no Golden Glove. One of the reasons also because many of the local and regional Golden Glove competitions were canceled because of COVID-19. And they couldn't have they couldn't finish their Golden Glove competition. So no reason to have the national one as well. So Golden Gloves, no Golden Gloves for this year. Always sad to hear that, but that's just the way it is. By the way, speaking of Golden Gloves, I do want to mention this. The lady who was the wife of one of the first people to hold the Golden Gloves in Washington, D.C., the Washington Golden Gloves, passed away recently. Her name was Margaret Tuttle, and she was the wife of Truman Tuttle, the, for lack of a better term, founder of the Golden Gloves here in Washington, D.C. He held the charter for many, many years. And I used to really enjoy seeing Mrs. Tuttle at the Golden Gloves. She would come every year, even when her husband passed away. She would come to the Golden Gloves. I used to greet her all the time. It was a wonderful woman, no question about it. She and members of the family, many of whom who were boxers themselves, would come and help out Bob Magruder and Ken Sprouse with the Golden Gloves. And it was just sad to hear of her passing earlier this week. So Margaret Tuttle, the wife of Truman Tuttle, passed away. And of course, they were very much involved with the Washington Golden Gloves. Okay, let's go to our tribute for this week. Our tribute this week is a very, very accomplished boxer, a man who, as I said, started his career. He's one of our four kings. And he started his career the earliest of all four of the four kings, but was the last man in the four kings to win a world title. Now, the four kings, we've talked about three of them already. We've talked about Mark Too Sharp Johnson years ago for Black History Month one year. We recently did commentary on the careers of the middleweight champions, Keith Holmes and William Joppy. Of course, Mark Johnson was a flyweight champion. But the only one that we have not talked about until this week is the little big man out of Tacoma Park, Maryland, Sharmba Mitchell. Now, Sharmba Mitchell, again, started his career very early. He started at the age of 18 in 1988, November of 1988. Had his first bout against Willie Rivera in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Won a 4-round unanimous decision. Now, unlike Johnson, Joppy, and Holmes, Sharmba didn't have the greatest of power. He had 30 knockouts in his 57 wins, 57-6, 30 knockouts. But he really did not use his boxing for knockouts. He wanted to really outbox. He was really a great boxer. Probably maybe the best pure boxer of all four of the four kings, and one of the best pure boxers ever in this area, come out of this area. And so his first 4 bouts were all by decision. Willie Rivera on November 22nd, 1988. On January 15th, 1989, he won a 4-round unanimous decision over Craig Willis in Atlantic City. He won over Thomas Baker in Glen Burnie, Maryland, his first time in the area. 6-round unanimous decision there. He went to 6 rounds very quickly in his career. And then he won a 6-round decision over Burrell Liverpool on April 27, 1989 at D.C. Armory. And he would continue on, and he would get a record going of 11-0. 11-0, and he had a few KOs in there. He had 4 KOs in there at that point. And he would come up against one of the first of the former world champions that he would face in his career. Now, Sharmba Mitchell, one of the key things about Sharmba Mitchell is that over his career he fought 12 boxers who went on to world championships, and he's 6-6 against these fighters. And the first one he faced was a bout that took place on March 8th, 1990 at the Trump Plaza Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey, with Rafael Bazooka Limon. And it was a bout that would put Sharmba on the map in more ways than one. First of all, it was a major step up in competition because, again, Rafael Bazooka Limon was a former world champion. But Limon was definitely on the downside of his career. And Sharmba just totally outclassed him. He was much faster. He was, quicker with his hands. He was totally doing it. And this fight was on USA Network. It was on the USA Network on Tuesday Night Fights. And I remember it very, very well. Because in the bout, Limon got so discouraged that he actually pulled down Sharmba Mitchell's trunks. Pulled him down on live television. May have been the first time that ever happened in boxing history, televised boxing history, who knows. But that's what he did. And, of course, Sharmba went on to win by unanimous decision. He was dominant, 80-72, 80-72, and 80-71 were the scores. So Sharmba easily defeated Bazooka Limon. But he turned what could have been a negative and could have been an embarrassing situation for him into a major positive. I'll never forget this. The very next time he was on television, which I believe was his next bout, against Billy Young on April 3rd, 1990 at the Blue Horizon, Philadelphia. First 10-round bout, and Sharmba came to the ring wearing suspenders. It was beautiful. It was so wonderful. He really turned a negative into a major positive that night. He also went on to win the bout. He won a 10-round unanimous decision over Billy Young on that night at the Blue Horizon, Philadelphia. Now, the first time I would get to see Sharmba Mitchell in person was on July 3rd, 1990. And he went up against a boxer by the name of Eric the Orphan Podolak. Now, I remember him so well, Eric Podolak, because I believe it was his uncle, was the former running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, Ed Podolak. And again, he was somehow related to him. I don't think it was a straight connection, maybe a distant connection to him, but they were related. And I just seen Eric Podolak fight at Coolidge Senior High School. We did a Friday night at the field house that night with him, and he was at the Coolidge Senior High School fighting on a card there. So I had seen him before. So it was interesting. In that time, he was 10-1 going into the bout against Sharmba Mitchell. So bout took place at the convention center, the old convention center in Washington, D.C., and it was on the same night. It was a USA boxing night, the same night that Louis Heidi Curtis fought Pedro Feliciano, which I believe was Louis Curtis's last fight. It was for the USBA, I believe, super flyweight title. Well, Sharmba would go on to win the bout by fifth round TKO, and I remember Podolak being very, very upset about that. And I remember chasing him down in the bowels of the convention center, trying to figure out why he was upset. Because again, Sharmba was just outclassing him, no question about that. He was outclassing him. So it was a very, very interesting situation there. But Podolak would go on. Sharmba would go on to win that bout, and Sharmba would take a slow but steady pace toward a major bout. He would fight some very good people along the way. He fought a 10-round unanimous, a third-round knockout win over Miguel Santana on July 23rd, 1991 at Harrah's Hotel Casino, Atlantic City. He'd come back to the Washington Convention Center and take on another D.C. boxer by the name of Keely Thompson. He would knock out Keely Thompson in the 10th round at the Washington Convention Center. That was on October 29th, 1991. Then on April 22nd, 1992, he would win over another former world champion in Rocky Lockridge. Rocky Lockridge just passed away, I believe it was late last year. Rocky Lockridge. That was at the Meadowlands Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and Sharmba would win a 10-round unanimous decision in that bout. He'd come back to D.C. He'd win a second-round TKO over Eric Whitfield at the Washington Convention Center on November 29th, 1992. And then on May 22nd, 1993, Sharmba would be part of a big card at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., a card that I missed. And I don't know how I missed this, but I just missed the card. Well, I'm kind of glad I did, because it was not a great card. A lot of the bouts didn't live up to their billing, so to speak. And one of them may have been the bout that Sharmba was in. He faced another fading but possibly dangerous boxer by the name of Kenny Bazemore. Kenny the Technician Bazemore. And he was out of D.C. as well. And Sharmba knocked him out in the first round. That was on May 22nd, 1993, about a card that was on HBO. This is the Riddick Bowe Jesse Ferguson card. That was the main event there. And the co-feature was Bernard Hopkins taking on Roy Jones Jr. in a bout that was just plain awful. I mean, neither one of those guys were the legends they would end up being. And it showed it was a terrible bout all the way around. Riddick Bowe dispatched Jesse Ferguson that night. I remember Andrew Maynard was on that card. He got knocked out by Edgerton Marcus that night. It was not a great card, not a really great card at all. And Sharmba took care of business with Kenny Bazemore. Now, Sharmba was totally undefeated, and he would fight well, but he ended up still lightweight at this point. He was still lightweight. And he come up to two major bumps in the road. The first one took place on March 18th, 1994 at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada. He'd go up against Levander Johnson, the late Levander Johnson. And it was a major bout for the NABF lightweight title, his first chance at a regional title. And Sharmba was knocked out in the 8th round. It was a major surprise, major shock to many people. And he was really in a tough spot at that time. So Levander Johnson would knock out Sharmba Mitchell in the 8th round. His very next bout on June 21st, 1994, was also at the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, and was up against another former world champion in Stevie Johnston. Really good fighter. Both Levander and Stevie Johnston. Levander Johnson, Stevie Johnston were very good fighters. And Sharmba would fight well in that bout at the MGM Grand, but he would lose by 9th round TKO. So that was a tough one. That was a tough break for Sharmba. He was going on very well. I believe it was like 31-0 at that point, and he would lose those two bouts to Levander Johnson and Stevie Johnston. So Sharmba would finally come back on October 22nd, 1994. We talked about this card. This is the famous night Leon Spinks came to D.C., and Sharmba was on that card, taking on a faded veteran out of D.C. by the name of Lyndon Paul Walker. And Lyndon Paul Walker would get knocked out by Sharmba in the second round at the Washington Convention Center. So that was a good comeback for Sharmba. He got back in the mix, and he was fighting at that point as a super lightweight. And he would go on super lightweight for the rest of his career for the most part. Facing some other good people. He would face on September 16th, 1995, he would knock out former champion Teron Millette in the first round at the Mirage in Las Vegas, Nevada. Come back here to Washington, D.C. on November 21st, 1995. He'd knock out James Gatlin in the fifth round. He would go on and win his first regional title, the World Boxing Council Continental America Super Lightweight title. Scored a second round knockout over Gilberto Flores in Dallas, Texas. He'd fight at the Showplace Arena on October 19, 1996. Scored a first round knockout over John Stewart. He would capture his second regional title, the World Boxing Association Federatin Super Lightweight title, with a 12-round unanimous decision win over Jose Rafael Barboza. That was at the Miami Convention Center, Miami, Florida. And then finally, he would get an opportunity to fight for a world title. That was on October 10th, 1998 in Paris, France. He'd face Khalid Raliou for the Raliou's WBA Super Lightweight title, and he would win by 12 rounds. Sharmba would win by 12-round unanimous decision in that bout. Pretty dominant. One score had at 116-110, 116-107, and it was another score, and another score was 118-105. So Sharmba Mitchell would win his first world title on October 10th, 1998. He'd make his first title defense at the Washington Convention Center on February 6, 1999 against Pedro Saiz. Pedro Saiz had been in the Washington area before. He was out of New York, and he won a 12-round unanimous decision. And that was his first title defense for the world title. Then on April 24th, 1999, Sharmba would give another local fighter an opportunity for the world title. He would take on Reggie Showtime Green. We talked about that card as the main event for Triple Jeopardy here in Washington, D.C. We talked about that on the 20th anniversary of that card. Once again, about where open scoring was in the mix during that night. And Sharmba would actually have a tough opponent in Reggie Green. Reggie Green was a very, very tough opponent. We may do a tribute to him at some point. He was a lot of fun to watch as well. And Sharmba would win a 12-round majority decision over Reggie Green that night. So really, really good night for both men in that case. Sharmba would defend his title against Elio Ortiz on November 13th, 1999 at the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada, won a 12-round unanimous decision. His next defense will be against Felix Flores in Las Vegas at MGM Grand. And although he was knocked down in the fourth round, Mitchell would come back to win the bout by 12-round unanimous decision. And win the bout. That was on September 16th, 2000. Then on February 3rd, 2001, Sharmba Mitchell would take on a legendary champion, a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point, Kostya Tszyu. And if he's not in the Hall of Fame, I don't think he is, but he will definitely be in the Hall of Fame at some point in his career. A good fight, definitely a good fight, a fight that Sharmba was fighting very well in. This was at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he was frustrating Kostya Tszyu at some point. Tszyu was penalized a point for pushing in the fourth round of that bout. And unfortunately, though, Sharmba suffered an injured knee. And that caused him to retire after the seventh round. And that bout was stopped in the seventh round. So, of course, he would lose the WBA Super Lightweight title and also lose an opportunity to win Zoo's World Boxing Council super lightweight title. So that was a tough break there for Sharmba Mitchell. Sharmba Mitchell come back. He'd win a 10-round unanimous decision over Bernard Harris in Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. on March 28, 2002. Come back at the Lincoln Theater in D.C. Win a 10-round unanimous decision over Frank Houdeling. And on November 9th, 2002, he'd fight another former world champion, Vince Phillips, and win a 10-round majority decision in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He would come back later on and fight another former world champion, Lovemore Nadeau, and this is for the interim IBF super lightweight title, and Mitchell would win a 12-round unanimous decision to win a title for the second time. He would defend that title for the first time in Manchester, England, against a guy from Delaware who I've become very good friends with over the years, Michael No Joke Stewart. Good boxer. He was on a Contender at one point. I caught one of his first bouts in Dover, Delaware, Dover Downs, and he was a great boxer, no question about that. They fought at the MEN Arena in Manchester, England, and Sharmba would win a 12-round unanimous decision. Then after a second-round knockout of Moises Pedroza in August of 2004 at the Foxwoods in Mashantucket, Connecticut, Sharmba would get his rematch against Kostya Tszyu in Glendale, California, the Glendale Arena. But this time, Tszyu was at another level, and he dominated Sharmba Mitchell that night, knocking him down 4 times and scoring a third-round knockout to win the IBF, to regain his IBF super lightweight championship at that time. So that was really the last time that Sharmba would get an opportunity for a world title. He would bounce back from that bout, and he went about it. We talked about this last week. The card that featured Mike Tyson, Kevin McBride, the Capital Explosion card. Sharmba Mitchell was on that card, winning a 5th-round technical decision over Chris Smith, what was in the MCI Center on June 11, 2005. Then on November 19th, 2005, Mitchell would face one of the greatest fighters of his era. No question, probably the greatest fighter of his era. I don't say all time, but I definitely say of his era. He fought Floyd Mayweather Jr. That was at the Rose Garden in Portland, Oregon. And Sharmba would be knocked down twice en route to losing a 6-round technical knockout. So that was a tough loss there. Come back, his last win was against Jose Luis Cruz on May 3rd, 2006 at the Big League Dreams in Cathedral City. I think it was in California, I'm not sure. But he won a 10-round unanimous decision there. And then his last bout was against a guy that really could have been a legend had he not had his motorcycle accident. Paul the Punisher Williams would have been I think a legend in this business. He was trained by a local trainer who moved to South Carolina. So it was a great tough loss for the boxing world. Paul Williams got injured and is now paralyzed. But at that point, he was definitely a great boxer, and he would Paul the Punisher Williams would knock out Sharmba Mitchell in the 4th round at the Reno Event Center in Reno, Nevada, and that's where Sharmba Mitchell's career ended. Once again, his final record: 57-6, 30 wins by knockout. All 6 of his losses were by knockout, by the way. But Sharmba was a great fighter, one of the best all-around boxers we ever had in the Beltway. He was a great interview as well. Wonderful interview. He gave you a beautiful interview. Talked, just really gave truth and gave good answers to your questions. It was always fun interviewing him. A nice guy as well. He's gone on to have a number of business opportunities go on. I know he got married a few years ago. And just a really good person in the community. No question about that. Wonderful person to be around. And I really admire him because he did it slow and steady. He did not rush himself, did not rush his career. Even when the setbacks came for him, he found his way to get around them, get over them, get on them, whatever he had to do to get past them. And he went on to be a 2-time world champion. So tremendous career, tremendous person. That's the little big man himself, Sharmba Mitchell. Before we go, I'd give a tribute real quick. And this is, it's wrestling, but it's not really a wrestler, but a guy that I had a chance to meet, who I sort of stayed in contact with through Facebook, but was really shocked by his sudden passing. A few years ago, many years ago, I did a radio show. I used to co-host a radio show with my very good buddy, Butch McAdams, sports talk on WL Radio here in Washington, D.C. And one week, Butch took the week off and he let me host the show. And one of my guests that day was a guy that I feel I shared a kinship with. That's why I think we stayed in contact throughout the years. But the man's name was Julian Shabazz. Julian Shabazz, which a lot of things I didn't know about, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But he was promoting a book that he had written about the history of black stars in the world of professional wrestling. And that, of course, was right up my alley, because growing up, seeing people like Bo, so I interviewed him on my show, and we had a wonderful conversation about black stars in professional wrestling. And it was really just, it was enlightening to me to see how far he went back with it. And it really preceded, and was ahead of its time in a way, because now we see more African-American wrestlers and people of color in the wrestling game, even more now than we did then. I mean, we had Iceman Parsons, of course, and Kamala, and, who a lot of them were stereotypical in manner. And we talked about that a little bit too. But now with the New Day, with Sasha Banks, and, just some of the ones that we have today, even my good friend, Leo Rush, actually he is a friend. He is the son of a very good friend of mine, Lionel Green of WBGR Internet Radio. His son, Leo Rush, was a very good professional wrestler. I think he may be retired right now. He retired pretty young, but he was involved in WWE and NXT. So, just that wave of African American stars now in professional wrestling, and Julian Shabazz kind of pioneered that as far as that's concerned. As far with his book, he really laid truth to light on that situation. We found out earlier this month, back on June 14th, that Julian Shabazz passed away at the age of 52 years old. And he had done a lot with his life. I mean, not only did he do the book on professional wrestling, black stars in professional wrestling, he also did a book on the career of Rudy Ray Moore, who many of you know as Dolomite. He and his brother David did a book about that, and I don't think it led to the Eddie Murphy movie on Netflix, but I think I would be hard to believe whether or not this had some sort of some sort of surface reference material on the life of Rudy Ray Moore. He also, Julian was also a professor at Benedict College, which was his alma mater in South Carolina, and really just a tough loss. It was hard to believe that he passed away so soon. I've seen some great tributes from Greg Oliver of Slam Magazine, also Mike Mooneyham, my good buddy from the Charleston Post and Courier newspaper. They've done nice tributes to Julian. He was a great guy, really was. I really enjoyed meeting him and talking to him. Wish I could have met him in person. I don't think we ever met in person, but it was really nice to keep in touch through Facebook. And really, really sad at his passing. No question about that. He passed away at the age of 52. So my condolences to the Shabazz family. And was a great guy, Julian Shabazz. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. Once again, brought to you by Real-Time Pain Relief. Go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. Get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief, the official pain relief of the 2020 Daytona 500. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods at Deborah, DEBRA Spears.com. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Boxing on the Beltway on the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network. And make sure you join us each and every week. We try to give you some sort of news and definitely some history about the Beltway boxing scene. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thank you for joining us. Always remember, keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Oh, beautiful right hand by Daryl Coley.